We'll go ahead and get started as it's 6 o'clock. I'll go ahead and call to order the Design Review Board meeting for Tuesday, June 4th. And to start off, I'd like to ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank y'all. So this is a regular Design Review Board meeting of the City of Milton. I'm Ken Warlick. This is a 7-member board appointed by the City of Milton Mayor and City Council, created for the purpose of holding public hearings and making recommendations. The Design Review Board reviews plans and makes recommendations to the Community Development Director for the developments except single-family residential in the form-based code and overlay districts. In addition, the Design Review Board approves or denies demolition requests and makes recommendations to the Board of Zoning of Appeals on variances. All right, so with that said, I would like to go ahead and do an introduction of our staff and board members.
Jackie Lim.
Rima Abdel Fattah.
Michael Cardeman.
Samia Coker, Cheltenham Walk.
Celeste Jackson, Saddle Springs Drive.
Ken Warlick, Hipworth Road.
Danielle Gagne, Morning Mountain Way.
David Jackson, Bethany Way.
And Danella, Haybridge Lane.
All right, great. That is our esteemed staff and board tonight. Next, I'm going to go for an approval or amendment to the agenda for tonight. Can I get a motion to approve or amend tonight's agenda?
Make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion for Mr. Jackson and a second for Ms. Gagne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on. So next we're going to do, I will call for an approval of minutes from our last meeting, which was Tuesday, May 7th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 7th's DRB meeting.
I second.
All right, I have a motion for Ms. Gagne, a second for Ms. Coker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So passed. All right. Next, we're going to just jump right into things with our demolition of structures. So tonight's first is 5A. And Jackie, if you can go ahead and give us some information on this one.
Okay. Good evening, board members. Tonight's first case is location is 12595 Broadwell Road. Just to give you a recap, this was presented to you at the last meeting, but it got deferred because there's just a criteria that needs to be addressed at that time. So I'm just going to give you the general information. The size of this property is 1.28 acres. It's T4 opened within the crabapple district. Sorry, this is a mistake right there. It's a crabapple form-based code. The character area is crabapple. The existing use is residential. This property or this structure was built back in between 1920 and 1929, and our applicant is requesting to demolish the existing house. So I did provided the background information at the last meeting. So this is just a recap. The Georgia Historic Resources Survey identified the structure as historic due to its architectural nature. And you'll see a copy of that survey to the right. And then some supplemental information here. There's 2 outbuildings that was removed, but no records that indicate the date of the removal. And in 1995, an existing garage was added, but this addition is not considered historic. This is just the aerial view of the location of the property or the subject site. So as you can see, you have Broadwell, Mid-Broadwell, and of course, Mayfield Road. This is the site plan that was submitted to us before. It will show you the limits of disturbance, and within that are the structures to be demolished. So on 5/7/2024, the staff recommended that this case will be deferred to allow applicants to submit a definite plan to community development for review because of that criteria number 6 that says whether there are definite plans for use of the property if the proposed demolition is carried out. Of course, we're all familiar with the criteria for approving a demolition permit. So at this point, let me turn over this presentation to the applicant or his representative, Mr. Scott Peters, just to walk you through the applicant's criteria response.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the DRB. My name is Scott Peters, and with me this evening is my client Jefferson McConkey, and his company J. Alma Investments is going to be acquiring this property. As Jackie indicated, this property is listed on the Georgia Natural Resources website, but a review of the information on there pretty much establishes this is no longer what we would all consider a historic structure. It has been modified a number of times. If you walk through the analysis, even just contained within the department's own listing, it says that the original outbuildings had been demolished already. There was, as it calls it, an obtrusive rear addition to the structure. The dormer windows that you see on this in the roof line, those were added, we believe, in the 90s. And in that addition, what they did is they bumped up and expanded the attic area to make that a living space, which is not original. So if you go through these different criteria that are in your code, is there any historic, scenic, or architectural significance of the building, structure, site, or object? And we would submit to you that the answer to that is no. Given the number of modifications that have been made to the structure over the years, any of the historic significance for the structure is gone. The architecture has been changed. The materials have been changed. There are all new windows, new doors. If there's a number of pictures that were submitted with our application, when you get inside, you see there's probably 5 different flooring types in there, all of which are modern. Everything that you see internal has been modified, upgraded, and is current, not historic. Is there any significant importance of the building, structure, site, or object to the ambiance of the area? Again, we would submit to you the answer to that is no. If you go over that area, you see there's a complete mix of architecture over there. It is not a consistent Georgia cottages over there. You have a brick building, you have a siding building, you have office, you have retail, you have residential. There's no common theme there that we would, so I don't think there is any matching ambiance there. Number 4, would it be difficult or impossible to reproduce such a building, structure, site, or object because of its design, texture, material, etc.? And again, the answer to that is no. The materials there are modern. This could be reproduced anywhere. In fact, though, the structure has asbestos siding, which you do not want reproduced, obviously, that would have to be demolished and removed. So that criteria, again, is not met. Whether the building, structure, site, or object is one of the last remaining examples of its kind in the neighborhood of the city. Again, the answer to that is no. I think the Georgia cottages are prevalent across the state, and there are numerous examples within the city of Milton. Number 6, whether the definite plans for use of the property, if the proposed demolition is carried out, and what the effect of those plans on the character of the surrounding area would be. And Jackie will get into this a little bit more, but if I could flip over to those plans. Here we go. Oops. There we go. So as you can see, the concept plan here, and this is when we asked for the deferral last month. As we said, we had been in discussions with the city about various issues and topics that were going to lead into this plan. The most significant feature, as you see, is the future roadway extension lining up with Marstow Drive, coming across Broadwell, and ultimately this will connect to the district at Mayfield. Where it goes from the back of this property is still up in the air. So that's why this is still a concept plan, in that the exact layout of the road may be adjusted. But generally, the concept for the use of the property would be a commercial structure with up along Broadwell Road with parking in the rear. And you can see the example there of the architectural style that we'd be looking at. Excuse me. And then finally, number 7 is whether reasonable measures can be taken to save the building, structure, site, or object from collapse. It's really not applicable here, but there's really nothing of significance to save. If there is, we're open to anyone coming trying to do that, but there really is nothing there that's worth moving, relocating, or preserving out of this demolition. Obviously, in the demolition with the asbestos, that's going to be a problem. And the rest has all been upgraded over the years. And that is, happy to answer any questions regarding those, or I know Jackie's going to finish her presentation and then I'll come back to you at the end. I
Great.
believe.
Yeah, let's let Jackie go ahead and finish up, and then if we got questions for you, we'll call you back up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peters, for that. So for this portion, I'm going to show you just the photos of the structure to be demolished, both exterior and interior. As you can see, the flooring here looks like a modern decking. And then you have, just a small fencing, I believe that's the south side of the property. Backyard. Interior photos. I mean, you can tell, when you see the flooring, trims, even the French doors. This looks modern. Slide. Kitchen area. As you can see, the cabinetry, this looks like it's been replaced too. So a lot of the materials inside, we did our inspection as well, just looking at these pictures. I don't see anything that's really significant or that looks like something that belongs in 1920 or 1929. Most of this are probably 50s, 60s materials, maybe some a little later. Okay. And then that was the last photo. And if I need to go back to some of these photos, just let me know later. So moving on, this is the proposed plan that was submitted to us in May. As Mr. Peters said, this is only a concept plan, but we did our preliminary just review just to check if it conforms with the form-based code. And just a summary, it's there will be parking spaces. They've submitted, I think they've requested 47 parking spaces. And then for this one, the total square footage is 13,400 square feet, and that's 6,700 per floor, or square footage per floor. Here's a bigger picture. The proposed use is office retail. There's 5 building units per acre by right. So when we did the calculation, that they will end up having 6.38 building units. So it's important that we look at district at Mayfield. This is the concept plan that was presented, early this year. Council blessed it, but this is just a concept plan. And just for perspective, the dotted lines there, that indicates the subject site that we're talking about tonight. So if you put the road, pretty close to what their plan is, but this is what it's going to look like. So probably you're going to ask, if they're going to do this road, what happens with this road here that was in the concept plan? So that will no longer be the case if we say we're going to put the road here, which is ideal because of the location and alignment of that with this Marstro Drive, just right across the street. When you go to Vintage Pizza, that's that road. And this is just an option. So for them, and I say that's for our Public Works Transportation to look at, is it feasible to do this option, first one, this or this? Any of this will work. So, and that's why before they submitted, or when they submit the actual building plan and the landscape and site plan, one of my recommendations is to go back to the board to look at it thoroughly, and we'll analyze it. So just quick things about staff analysis. We'll look at off-street parking loading. This is what the code say, the ratio of 3.5 parking spaces per 1,000. It may be reduced up to 10%, but it's subject to approval of the director by warrant. Then the parking layout, we requested that, or the code says a landscape island at least 10 feet wide is required next to every 6 parking spaces in a row. And then so our comments based on that concept plan is to add 3 more landscape islands as highlighted on that concept plan to your right, and then add more parking spaces. So a corner here would be add 10-foot tree island. And so in the middle, and then 1 more here to satisfy the code. And possibly, perhaps 2 parking spaces right on this side of the right-of-way. Okay. So just to summarize, the structure has been modified a few times over the years. The proposed concept plan conforms with the form-based code and complies with the district at Mayfield standards. The proposed road location is ideal because of its alignment with Marshall Drive, and therefore staff recommends approval of the demolition of the structure with the following conditions, comments, that they go through the demo permit process. And when they demolish, just to show, limits of disturbance, any disturbed exposed soil must be level and permanently grass. Then lastly, the 2 important one is that when they come back for the building plan and site and landscape plan, they have to go back to DRB for architectural and LDP review. So that concludes my presentation for this one. Any question for staff or the applicant?
Thank you, Jackie. I've got a question for you, actually.
Oh.
Is this property being added to the Mayfield district?
So we've actually talked about it, and the applicant has the option to add it or
Okay.
not. But if they decide to add it, we're just gonna go through what we call a text amendment just to add that.
Okay. And today, we're
also-
essentially just voting on.
For the demolition of
Just
the
for the
structure.
demolition, correct?
Yep.
So the
So based on-
proposed is just
Mhm.
essentially what theoretically could be done down the line, but today we're really just focusing on the
The
demolition of the structure.
demolition, and also to weigh in, of course, with that concept plan that they've submitted. Are you happy with that? And of course, all the pictures that we showed you, what do you think? And I'll leave that decisions to the board.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Applicant have anything else to add to that, or?
Generally, no.
Okay.
Just again, the road design, those 3 layouts, Jackie, we're working with Public Works. There are other property owners involved to try and figure out exactly how that all is going to connect. But when we presented this concept to Public Works, they were thrilled because unfortunately the plan that was submitted with the district at Mayfield created traffic headaches on Broadwell. where that intersected. So I think this solves some problems they were looking at and addresses some other traffic issues the city was looking to address, including the closure of Mid-Broadwell.
I agree. I think the location you have proposed for the new building being right directly across from the entrance into Vintage is a much better location than that access from Broadwell originally proposed. So, okay.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant or staff?
I have a few questions can you pull up the proposed concept plan again? And these are just questions and weighing in for when you all do submit.
This one or?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine. So you're thinking retail on the first floor and offices on the second currently? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Generally, yes. Given my client also owns a good part of the district of Mayfield, and given the mixture of what might be developed there versus here, there's a couple different concepts that could go here. But this is a good example of what we think would be more than likely a potential use.
Okay. And are you going to have access from the street and from the parking behind?
The concept would be access to the building would be, you pull the building up, there's going to be no parking in front, but yes, there would be access to the building. I believe code requires it from both sides.
Okay. Okay. And do you have an idea yet about that? I don't know if it's a plaza or whatnot, but that concrete space in front off of Broadwell?
No, I mean,
Okay,
again.
it's very conceptual.
It's very conceptual given until Public Works comes back to us with the specifics of the road, the width, the alignment, those type things. It's just not worth the time and effort and the money, to be blunt, to design those things.
Yep, I understand.
But we do obviously understand when we get to that stage, we will be coming back before you and going through that process. And again, this is just focusing on the demolition to get us over that hurdle. And then we know we will be back here once we work through the other issues with the city.
Okay. I'm good on my end.
Great.
Thank
Any-
you.
Any other questions?
I just have I have questions because I'm trying to understand. This is one of the first things that have been presented since I've been on the board that's like historic significance. So as far as understanding and getting to a conclusion that this was a historic site, it's been modified and there really is no like significance to it anymore. But this Georgia Historic Resources, is this something that is done by the city or?
So back in the day, Fulton County or the state of Georgia, I believe had a grant for Fulton County to do all this survey. So in 1995, that's what they did. The staff back at Fulton County went around, assess every structure in Milton and identify different houses that have some significance value as far as architecture or some history behind it. But that even if you're on that list, that doesn't mean that you're off limits, that you can't touch a place. So again, we have those criteria for the city, for DRB to evaluate, that they meet this criteria before we allow them to demolish. I mean, there's some cases that there's a site that, wanted to demolish and it has identified as historic, but it was denied because I guess there's no sufficient information or plan that they want to, that at that time DRB, or probably is not convinced. So that's why, it will be denied. But did that answer your question or this?
I think so. So once it's established as it was once historic, it's not like right now, I'm just trying to understand like what the criteria is to be like, it's no longer I hear people saying that, but is there a company or a group or who deems it no longer of historic value?
Okay.
Is-
Add something.
Yeah, and I think Ms. Jackson, part of what this is, and this is an argument that we get into or a discussion we get into, is it old? Is it just old or is it historic, right?
Right.
And so to get on this list, they just cataloged everything that was old. And that's how you get in this list of items. But if you look at the second page of this report, you'll see item 43. And that is recognition and date. Is it a national landmark? Is it on the national register? Did it hit the Georgia register? You know, those are the things where you start looking at, this has been deemed by someone to be historic. And I think that's the biggest difference is what being on this list just means you're old, but then you have to go through and really, once you hit these things is when you become historic,
Okay.
is I think the simplest way to explain it.
And we have some structures in Milton that has already been identified like historic, but you see them with historic marker. We have one in Arnold Mill. We have the Bloom Restaurant or general store
Yeah.
that used to be historic. And then Birdhouse is also another one. So
Okay. Thank you.
Feel free to ask away.
You what? Oh.
Anytime you got a question,
Oh,
ask.
okay. Yeah, no, thank you. That was helpful.
Okay, any other questions for staff or for the applicant? Okay, so then seeing none, I will open up for public comment.
we have none.
None, okay. Anyone in the audience have anything to say? No? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and close public comment and open it up for a board discussion. So me personally, I think both the applicant and the staff's report were spot on. I don't think that there's really a significant in architecture at this point in its current state. It's a hodgepodge of 80s, 90s, 2000 work in there. So I think the structure itself at some time, just because of its age, is deemed historic. But what's been added to it and what's transgressed over the multiple years, I wouldn't say that there's really any architectural features remaining of that would deem it something that we should weigh more heavily on saving versus.
I think it's an old footprint and everything else has been.
That's
is
correct.
new.
That's correct.
Okay.
I had a suspicion though that this was going to at some point be connected to Mayfield District. That's why I asked that question. So, but yeah, other than that, that's really only the comments that I've got on that one.
I think my only comment on this is because this has the potential to be connected to the Mayfield District, so much thought went into the planning of that I would like to see a similar look and feel to Mayfield District incorporated over here when they do come and present, a different concept plan. Only because this is a major thoroughfare right into what is now becoming, downtown Milton, downtown Crabapple. And this is such a high trafficked area. They have the opportunity to really do something really unique and wow looking. It's T4 open, so you could even do, restaurants with outdoor seating. There's a lot of options. But I would want to get more excited about, not just an office building. This is the opportunity to do something really cool right there in that space.
We need a candy shop.
Yes, like ice cream, just,
There's a candy shop.
yes.
Candy shop, soda shop. Anyway, I agree with you because number 6, where it says whether the definite plans, what the effect of those plans on the character of the surrounding area would be, is that I think that it's tough because if you look across the street at Vintage, and then you look at the one that we've already approved, which is next door to that, I guess to the east, west. But then you look at the concepts that we had from Mayfield District. I would hope that I wouldn't say the proposed or the new building you guys are trying to put up there it matches exactly what was currently there or what's currently there, but throw some of those characteristics in there too. I think that would be neat. Maybe one of the 5 different floorings you guys could reuse.
And I think.
And I counted it. You're right. There are 5 in there.
Yeah. And I think to address your point as far as, the concept is to, obviously we've got other property owners adjacent to us. We don't control that. But the concept is to kind of match the style of the district at Mayfield. As I mentioned, my client owns a good portion of the district. it's designed to be consistent, and that's what we're hoping for. We have had some discussions about adding it into the district. There are reasons, yes, no, and as we've talked through with staff, that might be addressed other ways. But I mean, the concept is, yes, this is going to be an integral part, and it is going to be an entrance into the district of Mayfield. So we can assure you that that's going to be part of the concept.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ann. When you all present for DRB, will you have the street layouts already determined at that point?
As we come in for LDP, yes, that would be finalized, certainly.
Were there any other discussion, comments, questions? No. So seeing no more discussion from the board, I will call for a motion for the application.
I will make a motion to approve the demolition of 12595 Broadwell Road.
I'll second.
All right, so I have a motion for Ms. Gagné and a second for Mr. Jackson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Congrats, guys. All righty. Thank you for everyone's patience. As we move on, we'll now move to 5B, still in demolition of structures, 3501 and 3499 Bethany Bend.
Okay, good evening, board members. I'm going to present to you the demolition permit review for 3499 and 3501 Bethany Bend. Some general information about the property is that it's located on 3499 and 3501 Bethany Bend. It's 2 tracts. Tract 1 is 2.25 acres. Tract 2 is 2.76 acres. The zoning district is AG1. It falls into the State Route 9 overlay district. It's in the Bethany character area. The existing use is currently residential. Each tract has a house. Tract 1, the home was built in 1961. Tract 2, the home was built in 1959. The applicant has requested to demolish the 2 existing dilapidated houses on each tract. Well, there's 1 home on each tract, so 2 total. And this is just an aerial view of the property, the 2 tracts, the existing Milton Montessori School on Bethany Bend, and you can see McGinnis Ferry Road. This is a site plan that shows tract 1 above and then tract 2. The 2 structures to be demolished are shown there as well. Here are some structure photos. This is house 1. This is the one on 3499 Bethany Bend, tract 1. You can see its condition. It's very poor. House 2, which is at 3501 Bethany Bend, tract 2. So some supplemental information. There is currently a rezoning permit application in process for the school that's located at 3505 Bethany Bend. The property's going to be rezoned from TR, Townhouse Residential, to OI, Office Institutional. The new proposed zoning will decrease the density for this site. There is currently a use permit request for this site for a private school, which is allowed according to the Unified Development Code, Section 8.4.1.g. Last piece of information is that a portion of this property does lie within the FEMA flood zone area, but it has just a 0.2% annual flood risk. Also, the applicant will be back next month at the July 9th Design Review Board meeting to present the permit applications for the variance and concurrent use applications. And the picture that you see here is the current school, Milton Montessori, which is at 3505 Bethany Bend. Okay, so I will allow the applicant to come up and speak to you guys.
Mimi did a great job. Thank you. I do have one question before the applicant gets started.
Sure.
Is, you said that the density was being decreased. What is the units per acre for the new proposed OI?
Per acre. I don't believe I have that information.
Okay.
Is it, did
was
I
more
put that in
curious
the
than
staff report, or it might be in the staff report? I'm not sure if I put that in there, but
Well,
I
the
can,
current zoning says 20 units per acre. The new proposed zoning OI will be decreased the density. I was just curious.
maybe Bijou will know.
Okay.
And then just in addition to, sorry, they're coming back next month for courtesy review for 2 applications, one for rezoning and the other one for use permit.
Okay, great.
So
Okay. Right. Thank you, Rima.
Hello, good evening. My name is Biju Epen, 3505 Bethany Bend, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I'm here just to see if we can demo that building. The adjacent property is my property. I've been there 15, 16 years now. I like to expand further a little bit. That's the plan. And I know community is supporting us. I mean, they support very beginning itself, and I like to do that. And like I said, next month onwards, I'll be coming for other hearing and everything else. The proposal right now is 12,000 square feet of the building in 5 acres.
Okay. Thank you. So question for you, you're expanding the school next door, is that correct or no?
Yes.
Okay, so the purpose of these 2 tracks and then rezoning them is to essentially expand from what you currently already have
Exactly.
on that. Okay, all right. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions for the applicant?
Is it going to be a separate building or is it going to be an extension of the existing
Separate
building?
building, yes.
It's a pretty large floodplain there too in the back, right? So is there any, that's a good question. Is there any proposal to do anything in that back area? Is that going to just kind of stay
No,
the
it's going to stay like
floodplain?
that. I mean, I think it requested 100 feet. I had to keep non-disturb buffer. I think 75, something like that, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And most of the time, if kids can play around there, they will play, that's it. No structure on it.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I will open up public comment.
we have none.
None? Okay. Then I will go ahead and close public comment. Rima, did you have anything to add to that? Or?
I was just going to go over the criteria for approving a demolition permit, which
Okay.
you're all familiar with. So I'm not going to read them all, but so just staff recommendations. So this property is not listed in the Georgia Historic Resources Survey or the Milton's Historic Survey list. We recommend approval of the demolition per the site plan with the following comments: complete the demo permit application, show tree-safe fence and silt fence. If not used, water well and or septic must be kept properly. And then disturbed and exposed soil must be leveled and permanently grassed. That's it.
Great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Board discussion? Seeing none, then I would like to ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the demolition of 3501 and 3499 Bethany Bend.
I'll second that.
All right, so I have a motion from Mr. Jackson and a second from Mrs. Jackson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, so we finished up with the demolition. We're going to move on to a courtesy review. And tonight, we'll start off with 6A, V24-08-15165 Birmingham Highway.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
The applicant is Gil Harris. The address is 15165 Birmingham Highway. The following variances are being requested. Part 1, to reduce a 60-foot minimum front yard to 33.1 feet and reduce the 25-foot minimum side yard to 5.1 feet adjacent to the south property line for an existing one-story frame accessory structure. Part 2, to reduce the 25-foot minimum side yard to 21.6 feet adjacent to the northeast property line for an existing shed accessory structure. Part 3 and 4 are regarding the existing fence and is to allow an existing 8 feet high opaque fence along the exterior street and southern property line to exceed the 5-foot maximum height. And finally, to allow an existing 8-foot high opaque fence along the exterior street and south property line to be an opaque fence, not an equestrian fence. Here is an aerial of the property. The zoning is AG1, located in the rural Milton overlay district. The size is 1.27 acres, length 299 feet, width 352 feet. Applicable setbacks, 60-foot front, 25 sides, and a 50-foot rear. Here is the existing opaque fence. And this was replaced in January of this year. And this is the one-story frame and shed, both built after 2010. And I'll let the applicant expand on the time frame for the two accessory structures. Some more background information. The applicant bought the property in 2010, and the previous homeowner built the opaque fence. The requirement of not allowing an opaque fence along an exterior street was adopted by Mayor and Council in April 2014. The applicant detailed in her letter of appeal that the fence was rotted and a safety hazard, and she hired a fence company to replace the fence in the same size and material. Staff received a see-click-fix anonymous complaint from a citizen regarding the opaque fence construction in January of this year. City staff then reached out to the applicant about next steps that included a retroactive fence permit and the variance application. The shed and one-story frame will require retroactive building permits. Both structures were constructed after the applicant purchased the property in 2010. And the shed received an admin minor variance, less than 1 foot, from the community development director on May 15th of this year. And that is something I believe I covered initially, but the ComDev director has the ability to grant 1 foot even without sending letters from neighboring property owners. And he took his authority to grant the 1 foot variance to the existing shed. Here are the support letters: 15125 and 15175 Birmingham Highway. And I'll expand on this later, but the gentleman to the south who supports his variance request, Mr. Eric Bayless, is proposing planting landscaping that'll help shield the fence. And I'll expand on that later in the presentation, but you have a copy in front of you. These are the letters of support. Here's a view to the north towards Birmingham Highway, a view to the south showing the existing fence. And here's a view to the west, which is the front yard and the private access easement for the subdivision. When I pulled up there, it felt like a street, but it's really a private access easement for all 3 lots back there. And here's a view to the east. And you can make out the shed in the back. Both are pretty heavily screened. And a view of the front of the house. Here's a view of the pool house from the front porch. As you can see the backyard, the topography drops significantly towards the house. And here's the pool house. Built, what I believe, in between 2010 and 2012. Shed was built in that same time period. And here are more photos of the interior of the fence. And here's a view from the exterior fence across the street. I waited for traffic to die down. It took a few minutes, but I got across. But when I go to the next slide, you'll see the screen that's proposed right against the fence line. And you can see it right here. These are 2 magnolia trees and a mixture of screen trees right here, if you follow my cursor. And the species isn't specified for the screen trees for the smaller ones, but there's like a list of 5 right there in the box above. And here's another shot showing the fence. And here's a view from Birmingham Highway. You can't see anything on the other side. So this is facing the pool house in the back of the yard. It's heavily screened along Birmingham Highway. Any questions for staff or follow up the applicant?
I have a question. Excuse me. You said Mr. Bayless here is proposing a new residence on the adjacent property. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So he is proposing vegetation
Correct. So that
to
was
shield that
that was
fence?
always his plan. There were trees there before. So
Okay.
that kind of was the
That was the catalyst.
yeah,
Mm.
it exposed the new fence. And he's waiting to plant the trees so the variance is resolved, essentially. He doesn't want to do any of the landscaping until, because in theory, if the fence was denied, it could damage some of the landscaping that he's proposing.
Understood.
Yes.
Yeah, I was curious when you said putting vegetation there, being as that the fence is essentially on the property line, how difficult it would be to, unless it was in the adjacent neighbor's property, so.
Yeah, so the 3 main big trees are southern magnolia and a mixture of screen trees of Japanese cedar, China fir, Arizona cypress, and green giant arborvitae.
Great. Any other questions?
So the existing fence, am I to assume it was put up without a permit, or since it's 8 feet tall?
The previous fence from 2010?
The one that was put up in January?
Yes. Retroactive permit has been submitted,
Okay.
but we're waiting to issue the permits after the variance is complete.
But it was put up as an 8-foot tall fence originally before the ordinance was created.
Correct. In 2010
was-
in that code.
Got it. And then it was just basically they built it again because it was falling apart.
Correct.
Yeah. At
2014.
8 foot high, that now didn't meet the ordinance.
Correct. As is April 2014, that's when that type of fence was not allowed in the rule, and facing an exterior street.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions for staff? No? All right. Michael, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, can we ask the applicant to please come forward? Good
My name
evening.
is Wendy Schrader. I'm Gail Harris's daughter. I just flew in from Wisconsin. I've been trying to help her out because she has a hard time getting around. She's an elderly lady and can't get herself around. But basically, he explained everything that was going on. My mother was in New York for the last 7 years, taking care of her mother and her brother. They both passed away. She just came back in October. She realized her fence was falling apart. It was a safety hazard because of the pool. With it falling down, anybody could have gotten in there. So she hurried up and just replaced it because it was already on the property. But as they started replacing it, the whole thing ended up being rotted. So she just did the whole thing. So not thinking about it and being 74 years old, she just thought she's replacing an existing fence that was there when she left. And then we got into all this. And so here we are. So, and the shed is, he said, the shed and the pool house were there since she moved in. Shortly after she bought the property, she had them put in. We actually had a neighbor across the street that would call the town on us all the time because he was upset that we didn't get his approval to put our pool in, where he then put his own pool in. But long story short, we did have the town of Milton out at our place several times, taking pictures and everything else. So we didn't think of anything else of that back then.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions for the applicant or? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Seeing no more questions, I will open up public comment.
None?
Seeing none, I will close public comment and board discussion.
Michael, why are they seeking the variance? just to get it approved? Are they building anything else on the property?
No, they're making existing, the shed and pool house, which were constructed between 2010 and 12, and then the fence, which was constructed in January.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So just bringing that into,
Compliance, yes, yeah, and it was the same, fence was replaced the same footprint of the previous fence from 2010.
any other questions, discussion?
So if this would have been, so they put the fence in, if they would have done the permitting and they replace an existing that was already there the same way, or does it have to, that inform now?
It's a new code.
Let's let Michael answer that.
A non-conforming structure can be replaced up to 60%. So if you just make it as simply as possible, 6% of the boards could be replaced, but the second you pass that threshold, it loses its non-conforming status.
If she would have replaced 60% of that and then a year later, the rest of it fell apart, could she then replace another 60%?
I'd probably have to talk to the boss about that one, the community development director, but
I think she could have. But that was my only question.
I just have a hard time with the fence still. And I'm going to bring my own personal example in. We built a retaining wall in our backyard, and it holds back a significant amount of earth. And we had to go higher because our hill also contains a lot of rock, and we couldn't blast. And so our wall is 8 feet tall, and the city let us down as it was 8 feet tall. Then we had to amend the wall and put a planting structure in front of it, and so that the only part of the wall that's visible is 6 feet or 5 feet or whatever the code was at the time. And that is to hold a significant amount of earth back. This is just a fence that's for privacy that was replaced. Sorry for the extenuating circumstances, but
Bring up a good point. Michael, if that fence was cut down to 5 feet, would that design meet the criteria?
no, because it's not an equestrian fence.
Is there not a code for the pool, though? Is this not for the pool code to keep
For
people from
safety.
coming in, like?
It's 5 foot.
It's fine.
It's actually 4 feet.
4 foot, excuse me.
4 feet, yeah. So yes, for safety purposes, it needs to be 4 feet in height. Yes.
Right, but a horse fence, an equestrian fence would not satisfy that, right?
No, the equestrian fences are typically 4 to 6 feet in height, and they have a wire mesh on the outside to prevent people from climbing over it.
Huh, okay. Yeah.
So I think for the sake of this, our kind of discussion on this, it's going to the ZBA, correct?
Yeah, the BZA in 2 weeks.
BZA.
Yep. Mhm.
Right, so, I think for me, given the circumstances, especially since the neighbor is agreeing to plant vegetation on that side, I'm okay with that. The problem with that, though, is that there's no way to make that neighbor put those plantings in, correct?
That is correct. We actually looked into that. You can't condition on a separate piece of property.
That's right.
Yep.
So just be kind of like a friendly handshake if it was accepted like that, right? So.
But the neighbor did sign off on the fence variance,
I agree.
and it's his property.
Yeah.
And if he had an issue with it, then he wouldn't have signed
Probably-
off of it.
Probably
Yeah.
be up here in opposition. Okay. Yeah.
And he probably doesn't want to see their pool.
Agree.
So if we didn't move forward with recommending this, like, what, that goes to the board and what happens next?
Well, there's a couple of things that we could do is we could recommend just outright approval We could recommend an outright denial. We could recommend approval with conditions of, cutting the fence down to 5 foot. Not necessarily, it still wouldn't meet the code. That's why I asked that question as far as the style of fence. And I'm assuming at some point that fence is going to be stained, right? Because it has to be an approved color or something.
Correct. They're waiting to stain it until after the variance.
Yes, correct. Okay. So
Could we make a recommendation for the life of the fence, but not a variance for the specific fence? Like when the fence rots again, then it has to be replaced with a conforming fence? Or does that,
It would
that
have
would
to
be,
be.
that would be the BZA, not
Right.
us, right? We would just make that
Exactly.
recommendation.
Yeah, you could make that recommendation. I do know sunshine laws or conditions have been frowned upon for rezonings or conditional uses,
okay.
but I will do some research and talk to Paul Fricke, the attorney, to see if that is a condition that they could do.
I mean, that could be a recommendation. They can take it or leave it when they get it.
I just see other people replacing fences and saying, oh, that's what was there and that.
Yep.
Right, does it set a precedence? Because we've struggled with this in our own neighborhood because there were some privacy fences up and we have required everyone to replace it with a conforming one as per the code if they are replacing it.
I guess I mean, I understand all that for sure. I've just, we have these other, other applicants come forward and it creates a hardship if you have to, I mean, she's already paid for this fence, they have to take it down, put up one that conforms to, and I don't know. I have a hard time making, something they spent good money on. I mean, she didn't know.
She's had good intentions too.
Yes, she wasn't trying to skirt around. I don't know. And now they're here trying to make it right. I don't know. Something to be said for that too.
I think I would agree with you is that because it was erected before it was actually a code.
Right.
And it was already there. So I guess that's a great question is at what point is that grandfathered in, or is it just the original structure, or is it the actual height and size and style of the fence itself?
Yeah, it's the whole structure. And then the 60% rule I mentioned earlier, just, yeah.
But if 60% was replaced and then later on, okay. So I think we have kind of conflicting thoughts here. So I say what we'll do is I would make a recommendation to, and I don't know how to word this because I do feel like it was a honest mistake that the pre-ordinance as far as the height and the style and all that of the fence, I mean, that could be, 8,000 fences in Milton right now that are already kind of pre that ordinance, correct? Right? And anything that comes new. So
Good amount.
yes, technically they're supposed to get a permit for it. Technically you're supposed to get a permit for and we just see this a lot. So, at what point, but I don't want to make someone a scapegoat for something they did just that predated that ordinance. So I think my recommendation would be for approval of the fence as is, but how do we, but with vegetation from the neighbor, but we can't do that. So,
Right.
Well, we can approve the variance, but
well, we just make recommendation to the.
You can make a recommendation and say it was noteworthy that the bordering neighbor volunteered this information for his landscape plan to shield the fence. And that was, although it can't be conditioned per se,
Right.
could influence your recommendation.
Yeah, and I imagine as a property owner, he's probably going to want to kind of mask that a little bit as well. So,
And he volunteered this information to staff.
yeah. And sign
He's been,
okay. All right, well, look, I'll just go ahead and I'll make a motion to, the BZA, for well, I guess really the fence is the only one in question, correct?
No, you got the other two
Well,
variances
the other
as well,
two,
Yes.
yeah.
which the property was there before,
The purchase, right?
yeah, but before the setbacks were in place,
Yeah, correct.
right?
hmm
I think they put the accessory structures in
Correct. They were built after home ownership by the applicant.
without a permit.
That's why they're
Correct.
getting.
They had a pool permit for the pool. And then they built the pool house with the pool. And then the shed came on later.
Retroactive.
Yeah, so we're requiring, from talking to the chief building official, he wants 2 retroactive permits for those 2 structures as well.
Okay. So my recommendation is to, we'll just kind of do this jointly. My recommendation is to approve the variance for the pool house. It's a 60-foot minimum yard. And then for the 25-minute minimum side yard for the accessory structure, right? That's what we're looking at. And I'm going to say at least to leave the fence as is, with the understanding that the neighbor's approval would plant the vegetation to mask that. But the side fence is 5-foot right iron, correct? But then there's also an 8-foot wood fence that shoots along the property line, but we're only talking about, are we talking about the whole thing?
Correct, yes, yeah.
So not just the one that borders the
So
Bayless property?
they only replaced the siding, but they're basically getting, yeah, if that makes sense. So the one along Birmingham Highway is existing. They didn't replace that.
So it's already existing?
Half the fence is, yeah, essentially.
At 8
But
foot?
let me confirm that with the applicant. Is that correct? Okay.
So it was not rotted. It's still intact before you came and redid just this portion between the property? Yeah, all right, well then,
One side.
yeah, so just replace one side. So even if you had to take this one down and make it a horse fence, then you'd still have an 8-foot fence running to the property
Right.
that is grandfathered in essentially because they're not touching it. It was prior to that ordinance, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the BZA for AV 24-08-15165, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3,
I'll second.
and Part 4, sorry.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a part 4.
One is height and one is material for the fence.
Got it, okay. Part 3 and 4. Okay, so I have a motion from Mr. Warlick and a second from Mr. Jackson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we have a 3 in favor and a 2 opposed, or all opposed, excuse me, same sign. Okay. We have to do the same sign. So, all right, so we have, all right, so we have 3 in favor and 2 opposed, so the measure passes. Or 4?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right, sorry. My math is off tonight. Okay, so did we get that all down? We're good?
Yeah.
4 to 2?
I got it.
That's our recommendation to the BZA. Good luck. Thank you. All right.
Oh, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
If you can get Dr. Bayless to show up at the Board of Zoning Appeals, I think that would go a long way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Good luck.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you for everyone's patience in that. We're going to move on to courtesy reviews, which is 6B, V24-09, 1105 Birmingham Road.
The applicant is Luca Gianturco. The address is 1105 Birmingham Road, requesting 2 variances to reduce the existing barn house and animals distance requirement from 100 feet to 32.09 feet adjacent to east property line for an existing barn, and to allow an existing accessory structure shed to remain in front of the proposed single-family home adjacent to the east property line. Here is an aerial of the property. This is the barn seeking the variance, and then the horse run shed right in front of it. And this is the existing single-family home to be demolished and replaced with a new single-family home. The zoning is AG1, located in the rural Milton overlay district. The size is 24.6 acres, length 549, width 352. Applicable setbacks are 60-foot front, 25 sides, and a 50-foot rear. Here is the existing barn seeking the variance, and this is the horse run shed, which will be located approximately 40 feet from the existing home. So the applicant is seeking the variance to make sure that he's not in front of the shed, essentially. And I'll show some pictures of both structures later on in the presentation. Seeing background information, the applicant plans to demolish the primary single-family home and 1 barn and build a new primary single-family home. And the property is home to several horses, and the shed to remain is a horse run shed. Here's a view to the north and south showing the pasture land. View to the west and east. And the east property line has a substantial buffer of pine trees. Here's a view of the house to be demolished. A view of the barn to be demolished. Here's the barn to remain. And this barn predated the city's incorporation. Here's the horse run shed. You can see the horse head right there. I believe actually that's a mini pony. They're very friendly.
That's the best part of your job. Then.
Yeah. My wife said the same thing. Yeah. Here's a shot showing the pasture land. You can tell the rain clouds are starting to come in farther along we go in the presentation. As I stated earlier, along the east property line, there's a thick buffer of pine trees. Any questions for staff before I call up the applicant?
So do they have a permit to demo yet, or that's next?
They're going to DRB. Oh, we'll be in front of you next month for demo.
Okay.
Yes. In July.
Were there any other questions for staff? No? Okay. Yeah, if the applicant can come forward. Mr. Reese, we haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese, Brumlow Reese Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I'm here tonight representing the Gianturco and Reed family and their application for a 2-part variance to allow 2 existing structures to remain. As I'm sure you're fully aware, in the city of Milton, existing structures are considered, if they encroach on the building setback lines or any of the other ordinances, they're considered existing non-conforming. And everything is fine until you want to do something else with your property. So in this particular case, even though these structures have been in existence prior to the creation of the city of Milton, now the fact that Kathleen Gianturco wants to build a house and replace the old house, we have to bring the property into compliance. We have submitted for the demolition permit, but due to advertising and timing, it lags behind 1 month. So we'll be here next session to seek approval for the removal of the structures. So I think the primary thing to think or bring up is this is a 24-acre property, part of the larger Turco estate. This is the oldest daughter is going to build her home here. She wants to keep the horses in the horse barn. All the structures were in place when they purchased the property some 20 years ago. And they were all in place when the Killeen Hills subdivision was developed next door. So anyone that purchased a house in the Killeen Hills subdivision should have been, or they were aware of what they were moving into when these structures were there. So I think it's very important to preserve Milton, the lifestyle that we have, that these horse farms are allowed to exist. We're not asking to construct a new structure outside of the building setback requirements. We are only seeking to allow a structure to remain and allow this horse farm and this family to remain on their large tract of property. So if you have any questions, I will be glad to try to answer those. Otherwise, I'm going to thank you ahead of time for your approval to allow the equestrian community of Milton to continue to exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? No? Okay. Thank you. At this time, I will open up public comment.
None?
None? Okay. All right, then I will go ahead and close public comment. Board discussion, I do have a question real quick for staff. Based on our previous case, if these were approved and then they came in and decided to tear it down and build it again, would it be in compliance? Or does the variance just goes with the site plan, correct?
You're saying if the variance is granted for a structure and they rebuilt it in the same footprint?
Yeah, correct.
That is correct. That could.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. More curious than anything.
No, I love these questions.
All right. Any other discussion?
They would have to apply for a demolition permit though, right? And we'd have to still go through the review.
Yes, they would have to get applicable permitting. Yes. Mhm.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Seeing none, can I get a call for a motion?
I will make a motion to approve 6B, 11, or, well, I guess we're recommending an approval.
Recommending approval.
Recommending an approval to the BZA for 1105 Birmingham Road.
I second.
All right. So I have a motion from Ms. Dianella and a second from Ms. Coker. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Reese. Good luck. All right, moving on. Courtesy review 6C V24-11835 Fox Hollow Run.
The applicants are Craig and Christy Melrose, 835 Fox Hollow Run. The requested variance is to reduce the 25-foot minimum side yard to 23 feet adjacent to the east property line and reduce the 50-foot minimum rear yard to 41.8 feet adjacent to the south property line for an existing accessory structure. Here's an area of the property. You can see here's the pool, and this is the accessory structure pool house seeking a variance. The zoning is CUP, Community Unit Plan, and it is located in the rural Milton Overlay District. The size is 1.35 acres, length 283, and a width of 146 feet. And pool setbacks are 6-foot front, 25 side, and 50-foot rear. Here is the pool house showing the encroachment over the 25-foot side and then a 50-foot rear setback. Background information, the applicant received a community development approved building permit for the pool house in 2015, and the site plan showed setback requirements were met. During the process of selling their home, an as-built survey was completed, which revealed the pool house encroachments into the side and rear yard setbacks. The survey also revealed the existing property exceeded the 25% lot coverage maximum by 0.5%. Rather than seeking a variance, the applicant removed a 376 concrete pad to get below the 25% lot coverage requirement. This area is now sodded and covered with bushes during my site visit. The applicant has support from 825 Foxhall Run directly to the west here. You see the green check mark. And here's the support letter. View to the north and south. View to the west and east. And remember, east is the side where the pool house is located. And you can see the landscaping along here. And there's an aerial shot I'll show here shortly, courtesy of MLS, that had a really nice aerial I took that showed the existing screening along the pool house. Here are views of the existing pool house. And the concrete pad that was removed, follow my cursor, is right here. And they just removed 378 little square right here and planted grass and shrubs. And I'll add that to the staff report for BZA to share that. But any questions for staff? We'll call up the applicant.
I do have a question for you. So it looks like they're trying to sell this home and they cannot until this is brought into compliance.
My understanding between the, that was shared from the applicant, yes. They're trying to resolve any non-compliant issues prior to selling the property.
Is there not a, you said that the 1 foot over for the shed or whatever on the recent case, on a 10-foot setback, was it? Or was it a 25?
It was a 25.
Was it 25?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this, we're talking about 2 feet on one side?
Yes, 2 feet on the side and then at 8
And
on
less
the
than 9 on?
8 on the rear. So
Okay.
yeah, it would exceed the admin variance capabilities.
Okay.
Yes.
And this was just built and then not covered or not caught during everything has been, the patio building and all that stuff was built, permitted, approved, CO, thank you.
Correct.
Now here we go to sell the home and oops. Yeah, okay.
Correct.
All
Yes. Yeah. And
Okay.
So I do feel like we see this a lot where people buy homes that they don't realize have non-compliant. So was this a request of the buyer that they wanted in compliance?
I'll let the applicant answer that, but
Okay.
why they decided to go this route.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's, yeah, city staff does not require non-compliant issues to be resolved prior to real estate transactions.
And that was my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
But approving this with the BZA would essentially make this in compliance and not have any kind of non-compliance. Yeah.
That is
okay.
correct.
All right. Okay. Any other questions for staff? No? All right, thank you. The applicant can please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Craig Melrose, my wife Christy. I think everybody covered it well, but I'll recap. We are trying to sell the home. We want to build another home here in Milton. We purchased that land. Upon trying to sell the home, the new prospective owners did a survey. It found this mistake. I'll call it a mistake because we didn't know about it in 2015 when we built the pool and the pool house. Had we known, we would have moved the pool house 8 feet and 2 feet, and there's plenty of room to do so on the lot. Also, at that same time, we built 2 extra parking spaces, just knowing that we were going to have friends over to the house for the pool and for entertaining. That's the part that we cut off and replaced with sod, just in goodwill to demonstrate that we're wanting everything to be right and kind of fix the mistake, even though we never knew about it until recently. The new homeowner, to answer the question, or the potential homeowner, is nervous to accept a home that is not in compliance. And so they made it conditional that they would not purchase the home unless there was an approval from the city of Milton. We assume that that's our mistake, that it wasn't caught until now. So in good faith, we're trying to get it all rectified to make sure that it's appropriate for the city of Milton, appropriate for the new prospective homeowners. We'd want somebody to do that for us if we were buying the home and concerned and worried. So that's why we're going through this. Earlier, it was stated, we did receive a permit, we did receive a CO. It actually was approved for the coverage, but we went ahead and fixed that even though that was approved, rather than try to seek variance for that as well. Let's see. Yeah, the neighbors have not had an issue. The homeowner association did require an exhaustive amount of landscaping to hide all sight lines, as you could imagine. You saw in the photos, hopefully, that all the sight lines have been covered. The neighbor that's immediately to that side also has a 25-foot setback. They also put their pool house backed up to our lot. They also planted on their side for the homeowners association. So there's 48 instead of 50 feet of pool houses and trees on both sides of that. The back neighbor, that's an abandoned structure. It's been abandoned since we built the home in 2008. We've left a letter for them to approve with a return envelope. We've not heard back from them. I don't even know if they checked that property. So we weren't able to get that letter of approval. And so that's why we come before you to try to get a positive approval on the variance for that structure that was missed up to this point.
Great. Any questions for the applicant? I think your letter of appeal was very well written. I think you did a good job describing kind of the hardship and the circumstances and the background for it. So I commend you for that. I feel like this is one of the better ones we've seen. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So then with that being said, I will go ahead and open up public comment.
No public comment.
No public comment. Okay. Then I will close public comment and open it up for board discussion.
No, I think this is great. I mean,
Okay.
I commend them for going above and beyond on this.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like they can do anything else to the property after the fact because then it wouldn't meet the 25%. So, I mean,
That's right.
it is what it is. It's gonna stay that way.
Okay. Then no more discussion. Do we have a motion for recommendation for the BZA?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of item 6C, B24-11 at 835 Fox Hollow Run.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mrs. Jackson, a second from Mrs. Gagne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good luck, guys. Thank you. All right. So that has wrapped up our courtesy reviews. We'll move on to final review, 7A, 2121 McFarland Lane.
So, Mr. Chair, we're going to combine the presentation for both of these properties. And then later, when you make a motion for,
We'll do two separate ones?
Yeah, we'll do
Okay.
separate.
I do have, real quick,
Okay.
so the only reason this is in front of us right now is because this is not single-family residential,
that's
correct?
correct. This is
But because it
townhome.
is attached,
Mm-hmm.
then it is up for review.
Yes.
Okay. All
To go
right.
to DRB for review for any material change, paint, etc. So the location is 2121 and 2131 McFarland Lane. This is within the Brayburn subdivision, townhomes. The sizes of each of this property is 0.03 acres. It is zoned T4 open within the Crabapple Form-Based Code. The existing use is residential townhome. It was built in 2013. The applicant requests a review of exterior paint colors for siding, trim, shutters, and door. This is the aerial view of McFarland and, of course, the neighboring homes. Then indicating the 2 stars are both properties. So this is just side-by-side comparison of what that structure looks like, of the front facade. First one is 2021, and then 2131. 2131 McFarland Lane. Okay, for proposed color, we'll start with 2121 McFarland Lane. These are the colors that they've requested for approval, and as indicated in this PowerPoint, I hope the color, in your screen is clear enough. But for the shutters, they have inkwell naval for the door, repost gray for siding, and pure white for trim. Moving on, here's the proposed colors for 2131 McFarland Lane. For their shutter, they want more of a bronze color. For the door, moody blue. And then for their siding, they want felted wool, which is kind of like a darker beige in color. And then for natural tan for their trim. So I don't see anything wrong with the color selection as far as staff looking at this. As you know, that area, they have diverse color palette and with more emphasis on natural earth tone colors. So the proposed colors complement the architecture of the building and the overall character of the neighborhood. So therefore, staff recommends approval with no additional comment.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Jackie? No, okay. So then at this time, can the applicant please come forward, or applicants?
I'm Paula Bloom. I'm representing the Brayburn Townhome Board, HOA Board, sorry. So we have 21 homes in our first section of Brayburn, which is right out here. They haven't been painted in a good long time. We needed to do some repairing, so we wanted to go ahead and do this. Had been asked by a lot of our neighbors to allow them to change colors because, that's their biggest asset. They wanted to pop the colors a little bit. We told them that one of the things they had to do was use a color consultant that we had found, because as much as you don't want to have purple and orange townhomes in the neighborhood, we didn't want to have them. So the two people that ended up asking for color changes did go through the color consultant. I think they did a really good job picking colors. And so I will tell you that there was a bit of confusion. One of the requesters did call the city hall and were told that we did not need to do a review. And then I called and I was told, after being passed to a number of people, that we did. So I would suggest that for future reference, that it be clearer that if you have a townhome, I guess any color that you change, whether it's a door or a shutter, needs to be reviewed. I don't think that's really well documented as far as I can tell. So anyhow, thank you, Ms. Lim, for helping us get here. And do you have any questions for us?
Great, thank you. Any questions for the applicants?
I just want to reiterate, you're not picking the brick, just everything else. Okay.
That is correct.
What does the expert pick mean?
I'm sorry?
The expert pick by some of the paint colors? Not all of them had that.
Only the
I just was wondering what it indicated necessarily. There's maybe.
Those come on the swatches.
Yeah, but why?
Hate to
Some
admit
said
this,
expert pick and some didn't.
Yeah, if they have,
Okay. I was just wondering if it meant something.
Yeah, so when she submitted all these colors, I went to Sherwin-Williams just to look at and then copy that
Yeah.
and then put it at
It's on
sample.
the
So I can't do anything to like
Oh,
remove
it was just on there when you
It's on
copied
there.
it. Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in their sample.
when it's color of the month, it'll say that on
Yeah,
there.
color of
and
the
Correct.
month.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed that I know the answer.
I'm
Well,
impressed.
did you know that Urban Bronze was the 2021 color of the year?
I did know that.
No comment.
Very cool.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for that? No? Okay, then I will open up public comment.
We have none.
None. I will close public comment. Yeah, so these two color schemes are used so often. And the $3+ million houses that I'm building, I've got two right now that have very similar color schemes. So I think, and the fact that they're not painting the brick, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Don't need more white painted brick houses in
why I wanted
Milton, but
Reiterate that.
those colors with those colors of brick I think will look very, very nice. So I think that's a good pick of colors. Color consultant was spot on, in my opinion. So
Yes.
any other discussion?
No, I guess transparency. This is my neighborhood. And Paula and I had talked about this months and months ago because I'm the ACC for the housing HOA board, not the townhome board. And I love what you guys have done. And I wish more residents had taken the opportunity to change some of their colors, but I think these will look great.
Maybe once they see it, more people will jump on.
Except they're finished. I think y'all are just waiting on these two
Oh.
for approval. They've painted everything else, so, yeah.
Let's give it time.
Yeah.
But this looks great.
Once they see these
Right.
beautiful colors, cameras,
Yes.
that's usually what happens, right? So,
Yeah.
Okay. So then with that discussion, can we get a motion?
Make a motion to approve paint colors or approve the final review of 2121 McFarland Lane and 2131 McFarland Lane.
We want to separate first the 2121 and then the 2131.
You want
So
them separated?
Two motions
motions.
for each. Yep.
Then I am only gonna
Yep.
make a motion for the approval of
First
2121 McFarland Lane paint colors.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion for approval for 2121 McFarland Lane for Mr. Jackson and a second from Ms. Gagney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. All right, can we get a motion for 2131 McFarland Lane?
I'll make a motion for the approval of the paint colors of 2131 McFarland Lane.
I second.
All right, we have a motion for approval from Ms. Jackson, a second from Ms. Coker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Congrats. Good luck. Thank you. Okay, so that has wrapped up most of our agenda for tonight. We have 8A, new business, and seeing none, unless there's any from the board. Okay, seeing none, moving on. Old business. Seeing none, can I get a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Adjourn. Thank you.